Hi, ladies. Today is May 13th, and we are in week 6, day 3 in our packet, pages 34, 35, and 36. Today, our learning target is I can convert time. So today, we're going to be looking at minutes, hours, and seconds, and then converting those times together. So most likely, we're not going to really be looking at the days or weeks part, focusing more on hours, minutes, seconds. But this conversion chart is there for you just in case. All right, so we are on page 35 now. I've also brought the conversion chart over to make it a little bit easier to look at and see. So we are going to be looking at number 1. So it says, which is longer time, 5 minutes and 25 seconds or 315 seconds? Explain. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to turn this time, that 5 minutes, into seconds. So 25 seconds is already in seconds, so we want to put those together. Remember, we're always taking that larger measurement, which in this instance is minutes, and turning it into the smaller, which is seconds. So we're going to take that 5 minutes and turn it into seconds. So going from minutes to seconds, we're going to take 5 and we're going to multiply it times 60. And that's going to, if we want to use our basic fact, which is 5 times 6, which gives us 30. And then we're going to bring that 0 over, which gives us 300. So 5 minutes is the equivalent of 300 seconds. But now we have this 25 seconds left. So we're going to add that back in. So 25 plus 300 gives us a total of 325 seconds. So now what we want to do is we want to compare. Is 325 seconds or 315 seconds larger? So if you want, you can use words or you can use those comparison symbols by showing that 325 seconds is greater than 315 seconds. So using that, you can use words to explain, you can use visuals to explain, it doesn't matter either way. As long as you get your point across that 325 seconds, and I'm going to put a little S there, is greater than 315 seconds. All right, on number 2, it says how many minutes are in a quarter hour? So you have to kind of think about quarter. A quarter stands for 4. Think about like a clock. We divide it into 4 sections. So one of those quarters represents 4. So it says how many minutes are in a quarter hour? So basically we can use a visual for this if we wanted. Thinking about that clock, if I break it into those 4 sections, what does this amount of time represent? So what we want to do, we can show that 1/4 is equal to 1 out of those 4 sections. So we're looking kind of at that 1 out of 4 sections. And we're going to turn that 1/4 of an hour into minutes. So we're going to go from hours to minutes, which means I'm going to multiply this by 60. Remember, if I have 60, I want to put it over 1 to represent that fraction, which is me taking 60 over 4, which is the equivalent of 60 divided by 4. So if I take 60 and I break it into 4 sections, so 60 divided by 4, 4 goes into 6 one time, I subtract, 4 goes into 20 5 times. So thinking about this, each of these sections represents 15 minutes. So 15, another 15 is 30, another 15 is 45, which is represented by this. So if you think about your clock, and then another 15 is going to be that full hour. So how many minutes are in a quarter of an hour? 15 minutes. And again, how we know is represented by our visual. So 15 minutes. All right. So going over to number 3, we're going from seconds to minutes. So we're going to be going from here back to minutes, which means that we want to divide by 60. So in order to figure this out, we're going to be taking 240 and dividing by 60. If you look at this problem, you have a basic fact here, which is 24 divided by 6, which gives me 4. And then I have this 0 that I can cross off in both my dividend and my divisor, which means that my answer is just going to be 4 minutes. You also could have written that out using long division, doing 240 and dividing it by 60, which is going to give you the same answer of 4. All right, looking at number 4, we're going to take 2 hours, 18 minutes and turn it into 18 minutes. Remember that this 18 minutes is already in minutes. So once we figure out what 2 hours is in minutes, we're just going to add that 18 back in. So to go from hours to minutes, we're going to take that 2 and we're going to be multiplying it by 60. Okay, we know that 2 times 6 gives me 12. And then I'm going to add that 0 back in, and then I'm going to add the 18 minutes. So 120 plus 18, go ahead and quickly do that. You might be even be able to do that quickly in your brain. That's going to give me 138 minutes. All right, so on number 5, now we're looking at a fraction. So we have 4.5 minutes. So I want you to think about half of a minute. So if we have minutes, half of a minute is going to be in seconds, okay? So think about how many seconds are in a minute. So if we go from seconds to minute, there's going to be 60 seconds in 1 minute. So if I have half of 60 seconds, that's going to be 30. Or we can just look at this and turn this problem into an improper fraction so that we can actually multiply by 60. So 4 times 2 gives me 8, plus 1 is 9. So this is going to be 9 over 2. Not sure what's happening here. And then I'm going to take my minutes, which is 9 halves, and I'm going to multiply that by 60. And remember, 60 is a whole number, so I have to put it over 1 in order to multiply that. All right, so looking at 60 times 9, I can use my basic fact, which is 6 times 9. 6 times 9 is going to give me 54, and I'm going to add that 0. And I'm going to take 2 times 1, which gives me 2. So now we know that a fraction is a division problem, so I'm going to be taking 540, and I'm going to divide it by 2. So looking at this and using long division, 2 goes into 5, 2 times. 2 times 2 is 4. We subtract and get 1. Bring down my 4. So I'm going from 2 into 14. We know that goes in 7 times. I get 14 again. We don't want to stop here because you still have a place value. So you have to represent that 2 goes into 0, 0 times. So we're going to show that 4.5 minutes is going to be the same as 270 seconds. All right, and lastly, we're going to do 80 minutes. So 80 minutes, we want to turn into hours and minutes. So because this has hours and minutes, that means that when we're going from minutes to hours, we're going to be dividing, and there's going to be a remainder, which is going to be our minutes. So we're going to be taking 80, because we have 80 minutes, and dividing it by 60. I'm not sure why that's happening. 60 we know we can't go into 8, but we can go into 80 one time. We're going to subtract, and we have 20 remaining. So what that means is we have 1 full hour with an additional 20 minutes. So 1 full hour and additional 20 minutes. So 80 minutes is the equivalent of 1 hour and 20 minutes. All right, so down below on numbers 7 through 10, you're going to be doing the same strategy that we just did up here for 3 through 6. Remember, you have your conversion chart on page 34. And then numbers 11 and 12, you're using those comparison symbols kind of similar to what we did up here. So you want to figure out what the larger unit is and turn that into the smaller unit. So for instance, this one you want to take 7.5 hours and turn that into minutes. And then same thing here, 3/4 hour, turn that into minutes. Remember, 3/4 of an hour is a fraction. So we're going to be taking those hours and turning it into minutes, which means we want to multiply by 60/1. So after you've completed your independent practice, head on over to your daily review for today. There are 8 questions. Again, these are all review questions. It's possible that there is a YouTube video that relates to most all of these different types of questions that you are doing. Always, if there's a question, feel free to reach out. You can also go on Pearson Realize and find information about different ways to complete these questions as well. For your assessment today, your assessment on Pearson Realize is going to be listed as 5/13/20 Quick Check. Just a reminder, you want to make sure that you are completing your independent practice for today before you go to Pearson Realize. Your independent practice is where you get to practice doing these assignments. Your assessment on Pearson Realize is showing me what you understood and what you learned. Your conversion chart is on page 34. Please make sure that you have that handy when you are on Pearson Realize doing your quick check 5/13/20 because this will come in handy for you to be able to complete that assignment.